I can't wait for you to see these casseroles. And they're good for really any time of the year. Have them for dinner or even take them to a potluck. And of course, they're easy to make. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 5 casserole recipes that your family is sure to love. Okay y'all, let's get started. If you haven't already tried this cattle drive casserole, you really need to. In a large skillet, you're going to add 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I also added in half a diced onion. Then I'm just going to break that up and let it cook until that ground beef is cooked through. This was lean ground beef, so there wasn't too much grease in here, but I'm just using my paper towel to get rid of what I could. Now to that, I'm just going to sprinkle in 1 packet of taco seasoning. I'm also adding in 1 can of Rotel. I get the mild, but if you want to give it a kick, you can get the hot. And I did not drain mine. And for a little extra flavor, I threw in a 4-ounce can of fire-roasted diced green chilies, along with 1 can of drained and rinsed pinto beans. But you could also use black beans if you prefer. Now give this a good stir, and we're going to let it sit here and simmer for about 5 minutes. Then you can go ahead and remove it from the heat, and we're going to head over to the counter with it. Now I'm going to get started on the base for this casserole. You'll need an 11.36 ounce box of the Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuit mix. Add that into a large bowl there. Then we're going to mix it up according to the directions on the back of the box. I added in that seasoning packet, half a cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and 3/4 cup of cold water. Now you don't want to overmix this, just mix it up until it just starts to come together to form a dough. I'm making this in a 9x13 baking dish, and with that biscuit dough being on the bottom, you do want to make sure you grease it with some kind of nonstick spray. Or you could make it even better and grease it with butter. Now spread that out to completely cover the bottom of that dish. And I don't know why I broke out the offset spatula here. I should have just got in there with my hands. If you want, you can dip your fingertips in some water and spread it out that way. You can do it whatever way makes it easier for you, just as long as you get it spread out. Then I poured that ground beef mixture in and spread it out to completely cover that biscuit dough. Now I'm pushing it to the side so I can start on the next layer. I'm just using that same bowl I made that biscuit dough in. It ain't gonna hurt a thing. I added 4 ounces of softened cream cheese, along with 3/4 cup of sour cream and half a cup of mayonnaise. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel, and it lets me know you want to see more videos like this. Okay, I also added in 2 tablespoons of ranch seasoning mix to that bowl there, and then you're going to mix this together until it's well combined. Now we're going to take that cream cheese mixture that we just made up, and you're going to spoon it evenly over the top of that ground beef. And it don't have to be perfect because we're about to spread it out anyway. And you'll have to let me know below, what is your favorite casserole to make? Or what's one your family loves the most? I've got that all spread out now, and you know you can't have a casserole without topping it with cheese. My niece Lila was down here on this day, and she helped me add the cheese to the top. She loves helping me in the kitchen. And you can add however much cheese you like here, but I think we ended up adding about 2 cups. We did cheddar, but you could really use any cheese you think would be good on here. Now I'm just spreading it out to make sure everything gets covered. Now you're going to put this casserole in the oven to bake at 350 for 35 to 40 minutes, or until the top is golden brown. Here it is out of the oven. It may not look the prettiest, but it is delicious. I just topped it with some green onions and served it with some Italian green beans. I loved all the different layers in here. That biscuit layer on the bottom, that ground beef, that cream cheese mixture, everything went perfect together. And I'm telling you, if you haven't already tried this one, you really need to. It is so good. This crack Rice-a-Roni chicken casserole was a new one for us, and I'll definitely be making it again. To get started, I've got a 6.4 ounce box of the creamy 4-cheese Rice-a-Roni, and I'm just going to cook that up according to the directions on the back of the box. I added a couple tablespoons of butter along with that rice, and I set that seasoning packet to the side. We'll use it here in a little bit. You're just going to saute that rice until it starts to turn golden brown. Now you can go ahead and add in that seasoning packet, along with 2.5 cups of water. I gave that a little stir. Then you're going to bring this mixture to a boil. Then drop it down to a simmer, cover it, and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes until that rice is tender and all of that liquid is absorbed, or most of the liquid is absorbed. When that's done, you can go ahead and remove it from the heat, and we're going to head over to the counter with it. I've got a large bowl here to mix it all up in. I went ahead and added in that prepared Rice-a-Roni. Next, you're going to add in about 4 cups of shredded or chopped chicken. Or if you're using a rotisserie chicken, 1 should give you enough chicken for this. You're also going to add 1 can of cream of chicken soup, and I did want to show you here, Campbell's does make an unsalted cream of chicken soup. I found this at Ingles, but you could also order it on Amazon. I'm adding 1 1/4 cup of sour cream. I just did a heaping cup full. Oh, and by the way, I always have the recipes either linked or typed out in the description box below. Okay, and after you get that sour cream in there, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of ranch seasoning mix, followed by 3/4 cup of cooked chopped bacon. And if you want, you can take the easy way out, like I did, and use the real bacon pieces. I also added 1.5 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. Now you're going to mix this together until it's well combined. I'm making this in a 9 by 13 inch baking dish. I should have probably sprayed it with some non-stick spray, but it looks like I forgot. Oh well. Then you're just going to go ahead and add in that chicken mixture. Now just spread that out evenly, and then we're going to add a topping. Now for the topping, I'm going to add on an entire 6 ounce bag of French fried onions. If you don't like French fried onions though, you could also do crushed Ritz crackers with a little bit of butter, just whatever you think your family would like. Now this casserole goes into the oven uncovered to bake at 350 for about 30 minutes. You'll know it's done when that top starts to get golden brown. I think I left mine in a little longer than 30 minutes, and I let my top get a little too brown, but it was still delicious. I kept it simple and served it alongside some sweet peas. This was an easy weeknight meal, but it would also be really good to make to take to a church potluck or anywhere you have to bring a dish. We really enjoyed it, and this casserole was full of flavor. I've seen this crunch wrap casserole on TikTok, and I've been wanting to try it for a while now, so I'm so glad I finally got around to it. In a large skillet, I added 1 pound of ground beef along with 1 small diced onion. Then I just broke that up and let it cook until that ground beef was cooked through. Then I went ahead and used a paper towel to get rid of that grease. Next, we're going to add in 1 packet of taco seasoning mix. And I also added 1 can of Rotel, and I did not drain that. Now we're going to mix this up and bring it to a simmer and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. After that, you can remove it from the heat so we can head over to the counter and put this crunch wrap together. I'm making this in a 9 by 13 baking dish. You can also make this on a sheet pan, which I've already done, but when I seen people making it in a casserole dish, I knew I had to try it. I melted down a few tablespoons of butter, then I brushed some of that butter all over the bottom of that dish. I'm using large tortillas, the burrito size, to make this. I've also seen people making it with the extra large burritos, the extra large tortillas. The extra large ones just give you a little more burrito. That way you have more to fold over on top. It's hard to explain, but you'll see in a minute here what I'm talking about. I just laid 4 of those down. I got them where I wanted them, and then I kind of tucked them down into that dish. You still want enough hanging over the sides. That way you have something to fold over the top before you bake it. So for the first layer, you're going to sprinkle over some shredded cheese. And you can use any kind of cheese you want here. And the amount of cheese you use is your preference. You just want to make sure you cover the whole bottom of that casserole. Next, we're going to dollop on some sour cream. Oh, and by the way, when we're done with this casserole, we're going to flip it upside down, and we do that cheese on the bottom layer, and when we flip it over, it's going to run down into everything else. And for the crunch layer, I'm adding on some Doritos, because that's what I had on hand. But you could also do some Tostitos, or you could also do some Fritos. I bet that would be really good. And I ended up doing about 4 small bags of those Doritos. Then over the top of that, you're going to sprinkle that taco meat mixture. Okay, and for the next layer, we're going to add some cheese sauce. I just did a bottle of salsa con queso cheese dip, but you could also do the canned nacho cheese, because I will say this cheese dip does have a kick to it, but we love it. Now you're going to spread out that cheese sauce, and I just ended up kind of mixing it in with that ground beef mixture. But honestly, it does not have to be perfect. And now we're going to start folding this up. I ended up pulling those tortillas out just a tiny bit. I wish I had let a little more hang over the sides. And I'm sure those extra large tortillas would do much better in this, but I used up what I had on hand. I laid down 2 on top of there before I started folding in the sides. And as I started folding over the edges, I just knew they wouldn't stay. You can put a sheet pan on top of this, but I ended up pulling out some toothpicks and they did the trick. Just don't do like me and accidentally leave a toothpick in when it's done. My husband's still giving me a hard time about that. And you just want to put enough in to close up that casserole. And I still had a couple tablespoons of melted butter left, so I used that to brush over the top. Now this is going into the oven to bake at 350 for 25 to 30 minutes, or until the top is golden brown. Here it is out of the oven, and you can see one little spot there on the front side where I didn't get it completely closed. It started to come open, but it was no big deal. And after you get those toothpicks out, you're just going to lay a baking sheet or whatever you want to serve this on, lay it on top there, and make sure you use the oven mitts because this is still very hot. You're going to flip it over. And I say that about the oven mitts because that sheet pan was cold, and I almost forgot about that hot casserole dish. And you got to be careful when you pull the casserole dish off. I used a fork to lift it up and get it off that way. And it ended up coming out perfect. It didn't stick at all. Oh, and that top came out really crispy, but if you wanted to, after you flip it out of the casserole dish onto the sheet pan, you could actually pop this back in the oven to get that underside nice and crispy too. And you can see how cheesy this was. It was delicious. And if your family loves crunch wraps, this will keep you from having to make all those individual ones. And feel free to customize these and make them any way you like. You can add on something extra or take something away if you don't like it. I topped ours with some sour cream, shredded cheddar cheese, and served it alongside some buttered corn. This is one my family loved, and we had the leftovers for lunch the next day. It was so good. This next one is a poppy seed chicken noodle casserole. To begin, I'm boiling up 12 ounces of egg noodles according to the package directions. You'll want to cook them to al dente because they will continue to cook in the oven. When they're done, you're going to remove them from the heat, drain them, and head over to the counter. I'm going to go ahead and make the topping. I've got 4 tablespoons of melted butter in a bowl here. To that, I'm adding 1 sleeve of crushed Ritz crackers. You're just going to give that a little mix until those crackers are completely covered in that butter. And you're going to need a large bowl to mix this in because I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot. I added in 4 cups of cooked shredded chicken, along with 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. If you'd rather use the unsalted, they make that as well. I haven't found it at Walmart yet, but I have found it at Ingles, and they sell it on Amazon. You'll just search up Campbell's unsalted cream of chicken soup. Now we're going to add in 16 ounces of sour cream. And just in case you're wondering why I'm adding 2 containers in, those are both small 8-ounce containers. Now for the seasonings, I'm doing half a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 tablespoon of poppy seeds. Now you're going to mix this all together until it's well combined. After you get that all mixed together, you're going to add in those cooked and drained noodles. Now just toss this around until those noodles are covered in that creamy chicken mixture. And you can tell it's a lot here, that's why I said make sure you use a large bowl. I've got my casserole dish. It's a 9 by 13. Now you can go ahead and pour everything in. By the way, if you're new, I would really love to have you here. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. That way you get notified of all my future videos. After you get that all spread out, we're going to sprinkle over that Ritz cracker butter topping that we made earlier. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 25 to 30 minutes or until it's completely heated through. This was absolutely delicious. I love me a good chicken casserole, and this one is one of my new favorites. You could also do the cream of celery in this, that would be really good. Add in some frozen mixed vegetables, or even some broccoli would be good in this. I served it with some green beans, and this was a delicious, easy weeknight dinner. I was really in the mood for a taco pasta casserole, so that's what I made. We're going to start out by boiling up 12 ounces of pasta. The recipe calls for elbow macaroni, but I like these Celentini noodles. I hope I'm saying that right, not really sure. Or the rotini noodles would also be good in this, and you're just going to cook those up according to the directions on the back of the box. While those are cooking, over in a large skillet, I'm browning up 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I just broke it up and let it cook until that ground beef was cooked through. Then I'm using a paper towel to get rid of that grease. Then you're going to sprinkle in 1 packet of taco seasoning. After you get that in there, you're going to add in 1 can of undrained Rotel. And anytime you see me using Rotel, if you don't like a spice to your food, you can also use the petite diced tomatoes. Now I'm adding 4 ounces of cubed Velveeta cheese. I'm just mixing that up and letting this simmer until that Velveeta cheese is completely melted. You'll need a large bowl for this. I'm adding in that cheesy taco meat. Next, I'm adding in 1 can of drained and rinsed pinto beans, but you could also use black beans. Also adding 1 can of drained corn and a 15-ounce jar of Alfredo sauce. Y'all know me, I'm using Great Value brand, but you can use any brand you like. And I did put a tiny bit of water in that jar there, and I shook it up just to get out all that sauce. You're also going to add about 1 cup of shredded cheese. Now one last thing, you can add in that cooked and drained pasta. Now stir this all together until it's well combined. I've got my 9x13 baking dish, and you're just going to pour it all in. And don't y'all worry, I wasn't about to leave any of that sauce left in that bowl. We are using it all. After you get it all in there and all spread out, we're going to sprinkle over about 1 cup or maybe 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 25 minutes. This was so good. It was delicious. Everyone's always happy when I make it. And if you haven't ever tried it with the Alfredo sauce in here, you really need to. What's your favorite way to cook in the summertime? Casseroles, crock pot recipes, one-pot meals, or anything quick and easy if you're like me? I just want to say I love you all, I appreciate you, and I'm so thankful that you're here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.